The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen. Picture this, a dream team of entrepreneurs who'd already struck gold once, selling their previous company for tens of millions. This time around, they secured $17 million from Silicon Valley's finest and assembled a crew of 45 brilliant minds. For nearly 5 years, they poured everything into building something special, a multiplayer game called Glitch, set inside the dreaming minds of 11 giants. The artwork? Pure whimsy, like Dr. Seuss had designed a video game. But here's where things got ugly. The game was, as one unfortunate player put it, dreadfully boring. You basically just wandered around clicking on stuff. Even worse, the CEO later confessed that 97% of people who signed up vanished within 5 minutes. Think about that. A multiplayer experience with no players. It was like throwing a party where nobody shows up. TinySpec, the startup behind it, was circling the drain. But hold on. This isn't a cautionary tale about failure. It's actually one of the most jaw-dropping comeback stories in modern business. Because that same company, TinySpec, would dust itself off and launch a second product, one you've almost definitely heard of, probably even use every day. That product? Slack. Today, over 20 million people use Slack daily, and it eventually sold for a mind-bending $26 billion. From total disaster to world-changing success. So what changed? What secret ingredient did they discover? The answer lives in a book called The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen. Now, Chen isn't some ivory tower academic theorizing from afar. He's a general partner at Andreessen Horowitz, one of Silicon Valley's most legendary venture capital firms. Before that, he ran growth teams at Uber during its explosive take-over-the-world phase. This guy has lived and breathed these challenges. What he reveals is essentially a hidden blueprint, an invisible architecture explaining why some products, like Slack, catch fire and reshape the world, while others, like Glitch, sputter and die. It unlocks the force powering everything from Uber and Airbnb to Tinder, Twitch, and Zoom. That force, network effects. The beautifully simple idea that a product becomes more valuable as more people use it. Over the next several minutes, I'll walk you through the secrets from this incredible book. You'll learn the 5 stages every successful network must navigate. You'll discover why starting small is actually the key to getting big, why the biggest networks are often surprisingly fragile, and how you can apply these timeless principles to whatever you're building in your own life. This isn't just a summary, it's a journey into the heart of how the modern world connects. Ever walked into a party, glanced around, and realized there are only 2 other people there, awkwardly stationed in opposite corners? What do? You probably bail. An empty party is painful. But flip the script. Walk into that same space buzzing with energy, packed with interesting people and great music. You'd definitely stay. You'd want to be part of it. This is the cold start problem in a nutshell. It's the fundamental paradox every new social app, marketplace, or online community faces at launch. A network only becomes valuable when people are on it. But how do you convince people to join when it's completely empty? The ultimate chicken and egg dilemma. For most new products, this isn't just a hurdle. It's a death sentence. The very network effect promising incredible future growth actually works against you at the beginning. Andrew Chen calls these anti-network effects a vicious cycle where new users arrive, see a ghost town, and leave, making it even emptier for the next person. So how did the giants Uber, Airbnb, Slack overcome this? For decades, people pointed to something called Metcalfe's Law. It's a formula claiming the value of a network grows exponentially with each new member. 10 people create a value of 100. 100 people create 10,000. Sounds powerful, right? During the dot-com boom, investors used this to justify astronomical valuations for new websites. But Andrew Chen argues this law is deeply flawed and practically useless for anyone actually building something. It doesn't help when you have 0 users. It ignores the quality of connections, or that some users matter way more than others. It's an oversimplified academic model that crumbles in messy reality. To truly understand networks, Chen suggests we skip computer science and look at the animal kingdom instead, specifically meerkats. Meerkats are incredibly social creatures living in groups called vaca, mobs. They survive through teamwork. When predators approach, one meerkat stands guard on its hind legs, letting out a specific alarm call to alert everyone. A large, dense mob is safe. They protect each other, find food together, and thrive. More meerkats equals better survival. But what happens when the mob shrinks too small? Without enough sentries keeping watch, they become vulnerable. Predators pick them off one by one. As the population dwindles, it becomes less safe, causing more meerkats to flee or get caught, until the mob collapses completely. Ecologists call this tipping point the alley threshold, the minimum population needed to survive and grow. Below it, you're doomed. Above it, you flourish. This, Chen argues, is the true law of networks, not Metcalfe's law, but Meerkat's law. A new social app with too few users will collapse like a tiny meerkat mob. But once it crosses a certain threshold, it becomes self-sustaining and can explode. There's a flip side, though. If the meerkat population grows too large for its environment, they exhaust food and resources, and growth plateaus. That's the carrying capacity. Same with networks. A social feed drowning in content becomes overwhelming. A marketplace with too many listings makes finding anything impossible. This is overcrowding. This elegant model, the S-shaped curve of the meerkats, gives us a powerful framework for understanding a network's entire life cycle. Chen breaks this journey into 5 distinct stages, a roadmap every successful network follows. It all starts with Stage 1, solving the cold start problem. The secret isn't launching big. It's not about flashy announcements or headlines. Actually, that's often the worst move. The goal is building one single tiny network so dense and engaged it can sustain itself. Chen calls this the atomic network, the smallest possible network that's stable and self-growing. Think about it. If you can build one stable atomic network, you can probably build a second. Build 2, you can build 10. Build 10, you can build 100, and eventually conquer the world. Everything hinges on nailing that first one. For a history lesson, let's look not at tech, but at the invention of the credit card. In 1958, Bank of America wanted to launch the Bank AmeriCard. They faced a classic network problem. Shoppers wouldn't want a card, no stores accepted, and stores wouldn't accept a card no shoppers had. Perfect stalemate. Their solution? They didn't launch nationwide, not even statewide. They chose one small, isolated city, Fresno. Why? Because 45% of families there already banked with Bank of America. Dense, captive audience. Then they did something remarkable. In a single day, later dubbed the Fresno Drop, they mailed 60,000 active, ready-to-use credit cards to those families. Overnight, an entire city of consumers had a new payment method. Simultaneously, they approached local merchants saying, "Tomorrow, thousands of your best customers will walk in with these cards. You need to accept them." Over 300 merchants signed up immediately. One coordinated move created a perfect, self-sustaining atomic network. From that single city, the modern credit card industry exploded. That's the playbook. Start with the smallest, densest network possible. For Slack, it was a single small team of 3 to 10 people inside a company. For Facebook, one college campus, Harvard. For Tinder, a single party at USC. But building even one atomic network is brutally difficult. To do it, you must focus on the most important group in any network, what Chen calls the hard side. In any network, a small minority creates disproportionate value. On YouTube, billions watch videos, but only millions upload them. On Uber, 20 to 30 riders exist for every driver. On Wikipedia, Hundreds of millions read articles monthly, but just a few thousand active editors write and maintain almost everything. In fact, 1/3 of all English-language Wikipedia articles have been touched by a single unpaid volunteer editor named Stephen Pruitt. These creators, drivers, and editors are the hard side. They work harder, are harder to attract and retain, but without them, the network collapses. The consumers, the easy side, only show up if the hard side is already creating value. Therefore, the first critical task in solving the cold start problem is building a product that solves a painful, urgent problem for the hard side. Look at Tinder. Before Tinder, online dating sites resembled classified ads. Popular members, especially women, got buried under hundreds of messages, mostly low quality. Terrible experience for them. The hard side of the dating network. Tinder solved this brilliantly with its double opt-in, swipe mechanic. Women only received messages from guys they'd also swiped right on. This simple innovation gave the hard side control, filtering noise and transforming the experience from overwhelming to fun and safe. They solved a hard problem for the hard side, and the network exploded. For their first atomic network launch, they skipped national ad campaigns. They threw a birthday party for a popular USC student. The catch? To enter, you had to download Tinder at the door. Instant atomic network of 500 of the most social, hyper-connected people on campus, all together, all at once. Next day, those students opened the app and saw people they just met. Magic. Once you've built that first atomic network, you enter stage 2, the tipping point. This is where you scale. You take that initial playbook and copy-paste it repeatedly. Tinder went from one USC party to throwing parties at campuses nationwide. One atomic network, then another, and another, each easier to launch than the last. Momentum becomes unstoppable as entire markets tip in your favor. Several powerful strategies can reach the tipping point. One is the famous invite-only launch, used by LinkedIn and Clubhouse. The goal isn't just hype, it's clever network curation. Giving invites to a specific group, say successful Silicon Valley professionals, ensures they'll invite similar people. The network copies itself while maintaining quality as it grows. Another brilliant strategy is come for the tool, stay for the network. This is one of the smartest ways to sidestep the cold start problem entirely. You start offering a product useful by itself for a single user. That's the tool. Once you have critical mass, you introduce features, connecting them together. That's the network. Classic example, Instagram. Before Instagram, there was Hipstamatic, a fantastic tool for applying vintage filters to photos. Incredibly popular. Even won Apple's App of the Year, but it was just a tool. After editing, you manually uploaded elsewhere, like Facebook. Instagram offered similar filters, but wrapped them inside a social network. You came for the tool, the filters, but stayed for the network, the feed, likes, comments, followers. Instagram built a network while Hipstamatic built a feature. The network won. Once the market tips and growth accelerates, you hit stage 3, escape velocity. This is hypergrowth, the classic hockey stick curve every startup dreams about. What looks effortless from outside requires furious work inside. The goal is strengthening and amplifying the network effects, now powering your growth. Chen breaks the vague concept of network effects into 3 distinct, measurable forces. He calls this the trio of forces. First is the acquisition effect, the network's ability to acquire new users for you, often free. This is viral growth. The famous example is PayPal. Early growth was slow until they found their killer use case, eBay sellers. To supercharge growth, they launched a genius referral program, $10 for signing up, another $10 for every referred friend who joined. People essentially got paid to grow the network. Growth exploded from 10,000 users to 5 million in just over a year. Second is the engagement effect. The network gets stickier as it grows. As more friends and colleagues join platforms like Slack or LinkedIn, you find more reasons to use it. You climb an engagement ladder from occasional user to power user as new use cases unlock. Third is the economic effect. The business model improves as the network grows. Consider Uber's driver subsidies. In a small, new city, Uber might pay drivers an extra $15 hourly to guarantee earnings because there are few riders. But in a large, dense network like New York City, that same driver might get so many trips that Uber pays only $5 or nothing. The larger network is more efficient, enabling better prices for riders and higher earnings for drivers, creating powerful economic advantage over smaller competitors. These three forces, acquisition, engagement, and economics, work together like a flywheel, spinning faster and faster, propelling products to billions of users. But no rocket flies forever. Every network, regardless of success, eventually enters stage 4, hitting the ceiling. Growth stalls. The once unstoppable hockey stick flattens and squiggles. This happens for many reasons. First and most obvious is market saturation. You simply run out of new people in your target market. eBay faced this in 2000 when its U.S. business stopped growing month over month for the first time ever. Their solution was adding layers to the cake. They launched new formats like Buy It Now to appeal to non-auction users. They expanded internationally. What looked like one continuous growth curve was actually a series of smaller S-curves stacked together. Another powerful growth-slowing force is what Chen calls the law of shitty click-throughs. This law states every single marketing channel, without exception, becomes less effective over time. The Internet's first banner ad in 1994 had an incredible 78% click-through rate. Today, a good rate is under 1%. We've learned to ignore them. Same thing happened with email, social media ads, and every other channel. As they get crowded, effectiveness plummets. But perhaps the most dangerous forces come from within the network itself. As a network grows from a small, tight-knit community into a massive global city, it can be torn apart by its own success. This happened to Usenet, the Internet's first social network. Early on, it was a community of academics and researchers who all knew each other. Shared norms and netiquette culture existed. But in September 1993, AOL offered Usenet access to millions of new users. The network flooded with newbies who didn't understand the culture. Thoughtful discussions drowned in spam, trolls, and low-quality content. This became Eternal September, the September that never ended. Marking the beginning of Usenet's decline, the network collapsed under its own weight. This is context collapse. When you're just with close friends, you can be yourself, but when your parents, teachers, and boss all join the same network, you self-censor. The network becomes a single, collapsed context, and authenticity feels unsafe. Simultaneously, the network becomes overcrowded. When YouTube started, you could browse recent videos. But what happens when millions upload daily? Sheer volume makes finding quality impossible. That's why platforms like YouTube and TikTok invested heavily in recommendation algorithms. They use data and machine learning to cut through noise and show relevant content, creating millions of personalized micro-networks within the larger network. These negative forces constantly try pulling successful networks back down. The battle to break through the ceiling never ends. But if a network survives this stage, it enters the final phase. Stage 5, the moat. Legendary investor Warren Buffett talks about building a moat around your business, a durable competitive advantage protecting you from competitors. For networked products, the moat is the network itself. But here's the twist. If your product has network effects, so do all your competitors. This creates a unique, brutal form of competition. It's not about features. Those are easy to copy. It's network versus network. This brings us to one of the most fascinating business dramas of the last decade, Airbnb versus a German clone called Wimdu. In 2011, Wimdu launched with one goal: copy Airbnb's entire business but execute faster in Europe. Backed by Rocket Internet, notorious for its attack of the clones strategy, Wimdu raised $90 million, more than 10 times Airbnb's funding at the time, and hired 400 employees in just 100 days. They scraped Airbnb's listings, poached hosts, and on paper looked unstoppable. Classic David versus Goliath. But Airbnb had a secret weapon: network quality. In their race for speed, Wimdu took shortcuts. They prioritized quantity over quality, signing up large property managers with hundreds of low-end hostel rooms. They built a large network, but it was low trust, low quality. Airbnb, meanwhile, had spent years cultivating a community of hosts, offering unique, personal experiences. They focused on the hard side and obsessed over inventory quality. When an American traveler who loved Airbnb tried Wimdu in Europe, the experience disappointed. The network effect was weaker because quality was lower. Airbnb had a global network effect. A traveler from New York could use the same app to book Paris stays, creating seamless experiences. Wimdu couldn't compete. Despite all its funding and speed, Wimdu collapsed and shut down. This story reveals the asymmetry of network-based competition. The smaller player, David, has an advantage. They can cherry-pick a single underserved niche within the larger network and build a superior product for that community. This is what all the startups, unbundling, Craigslist did. Airbnb took rooms for rent. Zillow took real estate. Tinder took personals. They built focused, high-quality atomic networks that Craigslist's one-size-fits-all approach couldn't defend. The incumbent, Goliath, often responds with a Big Bang launch, using massive distribution to push a new product to millions instantly. But as we saw with Google's failed attempt to compete with Facebook using Google+, this often creates millions of weak, disconnected users who churn out because they lack a dense network of friends to engage with. The network is a mile wide and an inch deep. The journey from cold start to defensible moat is long and perilous. It requires an almost counterintuitive approach. Start small to get big. Focus on a tiny, passionate community before conquering the world. Obsess over the hard side of your network because they create all the value. And understand that even at the top, the battle never truly ends. New competitors will always be there, cherry-picking at your empire's edges, looking for their own cold start. As we wrap up our journey through the cold start problem, it's hard not to see the digital world differently. Every time you open an app, you can now spot the invisible architecture at play: the atomic networks, engagement loops, battle for the hard side. Andrew Chen has given us a new lens for viewing the forces shaping our modern lives. The most profound lesson for me is the power of starting small. In a world celebrating massive launches and going viral overnight, this book reminds us that every enduring community, every world-changing network, started with a tiny, passionate, often overlooked group. Whether it was a single party at a college, a small California city, or a handful of editors building an encyclopedia, the pattern is consistent. Find your smallest viable network, serve them obsessively, and build from there. This is powerful not just for aspiring tech entrepreneurs but anyone building something from nothing. Want to start a club at your school? Don't try recruiting the whole student body at once. Find the 10 most passionate people and build a vibrant community with them first. Want to start a YouTube channel? Don't worry about millions. Make videos for the 100 people who'll become die-hard fans. Solve a hard problem for them, create magic moments, and they'll become the foundation for everything else. The book also reminds us that technology alone isn't enough. The most successful network products aren't just engineering feats. They're sociology and psychology feats. They understand human motivation, the desire for connection, status, and community. They succeed by designing systems, bringing out the best in people, encouraging contribution, and creating value through interaction. Here are a few simple ways to apply these ideas in your own life, starting today. First, whenever you get a new project idea, ask yourself, what is my atomic network? Don't think about total addressable market. Think about the smallest group who'd feel like your product was built just for them. Who are they? Where do they hang out? How can you bring them together and create an experience so valuable they'll never leave? Second, identify The hard side. In any group or community you're part of, who are the 1% doing 90% of the work? The person always organizing events, the friend starting the most interesting conversations, the creator posting the best content. These people are the network's lifeblood. Acknowledge them, support them, and build things making their lives easier. Serve the hard side, and the rest of the network thrives. Finally, embrace the come for the tool, stay for the network mindset. Before asking people to join a community, give them something valuable first. Useful software, an entertaining video, a helpful guide. Offer single-player utility solving a problem. Then, once you've earned their trust, gently introduce the network's power. The Cold Start Problem is more than a business book. It's a field guide to building communities in the digital age. A reminder that the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology. It's people connecting with other people. That was our deep dive into the Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen. We've explored the core framework and biggest stories today, but honestly, a summary can only take you so far. True value comes from engaging with the ideas yourself. Real magic happens when you read the book, when a particular story or simple phrase sparks an unexpected idea. This summary is your map, but the treasure is found on the journey. If any of the concepts we've discussed today, the atomic network, the hard side, the 5 growth stages, have resonated with you, I highly encourage grabbing a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning business strategy, it's about understanding the hidden dynamics of the connected world we all live in. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It helps us reach more curious minds like yourself and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.